It's the Dev Friday show with Mark and Tim. 'Twas the Dev Friday before Christmas, and that's all you get for $5.
All right, well, we're back. This is the last Friday before Christmas, right? It is, yes?
We have to get one show in before Christmas, Tim.
So, okay, I know you have things on your list, right? Actual things on your list. Like, you have a list that, like, last time we talked, you wanted to talk about lists. And my understanding is, like, you were going to talk about the things that, if you bought me a Christmas present, you would have bought me. But, you know, like,
I
the
thought
best
we were
tech gifts or no?
I thought we were talking about dynamic verse linked list, Tim.
No, we are not. I mean, what do you think this is? A programming podcast? I don't know. Something like that. Okay. So now I asked before. I was going back and forth on the title at the last Friday before Christmas. So do you know what Whamageddon is?
I do not.
So we play Whamageddon at work. Whamageddon is a. I mean, okay. So it's those games where you all try to survive. Like, as a kid, the games that I played were very simple. Like, one person wins, you understand how the game works, all that kind of fun stuff. But as I've played more games, I go to conferences, there's game nights at conferences, and kind of run into some of those games that are like collaborative, you're all trying to just survive type of things. Like, I think it was Pandemic, wasn't that one of those, I think? I don't remember if it was, but like that kind of collaborative co-op type games.
Yeah, it is.
Whamageddon's kind of not really, but sort of like that. It's a last survival game. You play it. You see how long you can last before Christmas, not hearing Last Christmas by Wham. So you're out, right. Like, it's like, and unfortunately, for a group of developers, because we play it on the dev team, it can be surprisingly difficult to lose, because these are people who are like, outside of my office, I don't go much. Not all of the dev team, but there are some that are like, the outside world is overrated. So there's less chance that they're going to hear it played, but it's Christmas time. So if you're out and about, it's a good chance you might hear it. So we have a list going of who got out when, and there's one guy on our team that keeps a spreadsheet, which, I mean, he keeps a spreadsheet of more than just this. He keeps a spreadsheet of awkward things that he notices. All right. Do you have a spreadsheet person on your team?
Well, of course we do, but we need to provide more context around this game.
I mean, I'm not going to go to any site right now, but if you Google Whamageddon, there are rules.
So that's what I mean. So it's a website that we can go to.
Don't go to it.
Okay, don't go to it. No, especially
you'll lose amazing. You'll lose like immediately.
All right,
I think.
And you're like doing this with your team, who is all remote.
Right, so it's like a last survivor thing, and like when someone goes like, I got Wham today. I won in the car, and my kid had Sirius XM on or something. They were doing on a Christmas Christmas music channel, and Wham came on, and I'm out. So they'll post that.
So
some creative people
you're playing this asynchronously.
Mm-hmm. Some people will play. They'll show that they're out with a video, which is why for the entire month of December, nobody on the dev team watches any videos that somebody posts, because if you hear it in a video, you're out too. You just have to hear the song. That's it. The only rule that we have is you can't get out from a Zoom meeting, because one year, someone on our team told the person who is running our company meeting, which is again fully remote, that what the dev team would really want to hear, as they play some Christmas music in the beginning as everybody's coming in the room, is Last Christmas by Wham. And we did not want to hear that. So it was, so that's the rule. Like, you can't get out on a Zoom meeting, because then somebody else can play it. That said, if I post a video, I'm like, I got out in the mall, and you can hear it playing in the background, you're out too. So that's why we don't watch any videos. People are like, hey, check out this video of my house. I've lit it up with lots of lights. And we're like, not until December 26th. I'm not watching that video, at least not with sound on. This is our little, I don't know, what do you want to call it? Fishing awareness month, maybe a little bit, because I say I have phone numbers that if you call them, it plays the song. I have phone numbers that if you SMS it, it calls you back and plays the song.
You guys are taking this way too seriously. But one thing that I know that I'm doing, so I'm not going to screw up your game, Tim, by playing it during the show here.
I'm telling you, I was afraid that I was thinking about, should I bring this topic or
maybe because it's too early in the morning and it's too much for me to coordinate right now. But one thing that I know that I will do after the show is spin up Last Christmas by Wayne.
You will. All right.
And maybe I'll find some creative way to get it
to you. Yeah, because once it crosses the 15th, and it's always crossed the 15th, we enable like person versus person mode, but really we do that from the beginning. So one of our team came up with an entire website that says Whamageddon Rule. I think it's whamageddonrules.com or something like that. So when someone else asks, well, what are the rules? It's like, oh, go here. But if you go there, it plays in the background immediately. And then if for some reason you don't interact with the web page, because you can't play it automatically unless you interact with the web page, it then just redirects you to YouTube. And instead of rickrolling you, it's Last Christmas. So yeah. We were like, you bought a domain for this? He's like, of course I did. It's like he got out early because the co-working office that he works in switched from their normal, like, subtle jazz Christmas music to some channel that had Last Christmas on it. And so he got out early and he's like, all right, I'm taking people with me. So
good times, Tim. Good times.
So what do you do at your company for holiday fun?
What I did for holiday fun was I just flew back from North Carolina.
Just flew back?
I just flew back last night.
Really? Oh, did you do like an early Christmas down there?
A little bit of an on-site sort of a team meetup before for Christmas. So my team is very small. Only a team of, including my boss, a team of 4.
Okay. Were most of them in North Carolina? So were you the only one that had to fly in?
Yeah, that's interesting. Almost everyone on my team lives in North Carolina. Now they don't live in the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area known as the Triangle, Tim. The research triangle. Oh, the triangle. Yes.
So
most of them live in North Carolina. Okay. I'm the only one that lives outside of Pennsylvania. We did just hire somebody new. We can talk about that role, which is kind of interesting.
Oh yeah. You were talking about that the other day, right?
And he's going to start like the second week in January, so we're looking forward to that. But yeah, it was kind of fun. I was talking to the guys about this, where is actually my first experience meeting my coworkers that I've only met virtually.
No, let me take that back. So you've not met, because you've had virtual coworkers before, right?
Yes.
But you've never really met them?
Usually I've either started in an office.
Oh, okay. So you met them beforehand.
And then maybe brought on some remote workers kind of along the way and then met them eventually. But this is kind of the first time, working for what's been going on the 8th month now. Working with this team and only seeing them online and then getting together with them in person, which is kind of a surreal type of experience.
Yeah.
So it's good.
It's always, so that happened, we've done that a couple times now, and it's always interesting because, people, there's more to them than, like from like chest to like above your head type thing, like this, there's more than an upper torso and a face. That's, and then it's always interesting to see.
Well, it's also interesting too to think about. You can't really judge how tall people are.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
It was super interesting. Like my boss is like super tall. And I was like, wow, like, all right, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that. And then also another guy I worked with is probably my height, and I don't know, maybe I have to assume he was a little bit shorter than when I saw him on the video. So it was just kind of interesting. It was like, just kind of a really good experience, kind of meeting everybody for the first time. And then, it was a little bit awkward at first, just saying, oh, we're kind of in the same room physically together. We're not on Teams meetings right now. But then, as we kind of got into it, it was good. So
you got to crack open your laptops and get in a team meeting so you can feel like, all right, now we're back to normal.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he's over there, I'm looking at him the normal way.
It's so much more efficient, especially when I have like my IT engineer next to me that could say, okay, I need these permissions on these roles and on the production so I can spin up this Lambda production.
You don't have to wait for him to get back to me.
So I pull him over and like open up his laptop, watch it. It doesn't work. All right, try this. And it was like we go back and forth. It was fun. So.
There is, that would be an interesting topic. I don't think one that we feel like before Christmas, like the feel of this show, but the whole return to office mandates and things like that, and people, you can't actually collaborate remotely. You can, but it just depends on what you're doing. But it is important to have that actual, interaction sometimes, and how do you balance that, and where's the value? Like, is at some point, I think the value of being in the same room together diminishes the more you're there, but it's like having those moments when you can have those in-person interactions is helpful for making sure that the remote relationship is healthy, and figuring out how to balance that, because I don't think there's a right balance for any of that.
I would agree.
I think it depends on the context of the team. It depends on what you're working on. Yeah. So But that was So did you do a Christmas party type thing?
I didn't really do Christmas. We did like lunch, dinner, kind of like just kind of hanged out together and kind of just talked about kind of what our plans for like the upcoming year, what we want to do, how we want to, because we are looking to build up this team, right? So that's kind of a big focus of the next year, because we only have four people total, so we're looking probably to double the size by the end of next year, and so just kind of looking for, just looking for the right people to kind of fit within our team and the organization. And so we kind of talked about that and kind of what we want to achieve as a team over the next year. So it was good. I like having those conversations in person too. It's nice.
And that four people includes the new hire?
That's correct. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So we hired a QE engineer, QE / automation engineer. So his role is going to be basically we do have some good test frameworks in place.
QE,
like quality engineer, Tim. Quality. Q stands for quality.
You said QE engineer.
I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Like I said, it's too early in the morning.
It's too early. You didn't have your coffee yet.
I didn't have any coffee.
You're just nursing
Coke Zero that I'm nursing here.
A Coke Zero, yeah. But you can get into that. So Coke Zero versus Diet Coke.
This QE developer, quality engineer that's going to be focusing kind of half on testing, but also half on automation. Because we have
automated testing or automation in general.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our goal,
that's what I mean. Is a secondary focus on? You said automation. Do you mean automated testing, or do you mean automation in general?
Starting off with automated testing, because what we really want to do is to have the test suites and the frameworks that we're using be more automated, especially running in specific environments. So we do have automated tests running for our deployments. Okay, we talked about this before. So when we do like a deployment with GitHub Actions, we have if it's like our Python unit tests or our Jest or JavaScript tests kind of run, we have an automatic test suite that runs within our deployments, or even also when we do our commits. So we have like pre-commit hooks that run to kind of just run through some tests for certain repositories. So we have that, but we want to do is, let's say, within our pre-production environments, we want to be able to have like tests automatically running all the time. Try to get to more of a continuous development cycle, so that when we're pushing releases or updates or patches in between the different environments, and once it gets to, let's say, that last environment before production, considered like our stage or our testing environment, where we're going to have, basically, we try to mirror production as close as possible. We want to have like these automated tests running, and then be able to have alerts built off of that. So if somebody pushes a bad release or an update, we'll have like an alert gets triggered if this test gets failed, and then we can take a look at it or roll something back.
Gotcha.
So we don't have that working yet. That's kind of right. That's a big goal that we want to have, because we want to get to more, because right now most of our updates are all kind of like we go through the different environments. It's a very manual process. We have to watch it. We do have alerts, because we're built on top of AWS, so we utilize CloudWatch and alerts like everywhere as much as we can, especially in production, to see if any of our jobs fail. But we want to be able to get to, or if we don't want to worry about, because when you do a release, I think you guys do this too. Like, you do a release, you got to make sure, okay, what's included in this release, right? It could be updates from 10 different stories, or projects, or a task that you're working on, and you have to make sure, do we fully test all those, and do you have to go back and kind of making sure that nothing's going to break by combining these updates together, and so
that's the tough part, right? Is the making sure, because from our process, every pull request has QA on it before it's merged, unless and there's some cases, like even yesterday I was having a conversation. It's like this code actually is not even used yet. No customer can use this code, and we just made some changes because we're kind of prototyping, we're playing with things. So there's nothing actually to QA. And in those cases, sometimes when there's nothing, we say there's nothing to QA because this code path wouldn't be tested by users. But if we change code that kind of like would get us into that path, and we're just saying, oh, but nobody, that's not true for anybody. But if we changed other code, that is used by users, we wouldn't say do a test of the new feature because nobody can get to that, right? But we'd say, hey, here's where we touch the integration points. We need to do regression testing on all that. So everything's QA'd before it even gets merged in. But you're right. There's that, like, what if there's a conflict on the merge? And what I like about our continuous integration process is what QA generally tests on, or what we have a test environment that they can test on, is not the pull request. It is the target with the pull request merged in, because the pull request can work just fine, but you care if it works with everything else that was been merged in. So as part of our QA process, it should have been tested with, unless like two things are merged very quickly, like, hey, QA tested this, it's good to go. QA tested this, and now after that we merged them both together and they had interplay. That can be weird, but generally speaking, everything is completely tested before it's merged in. But we also have a list after release, so we can look at that list and say if something goes wrong, well, what out of this list, what do we think caused it? You know.
Well, all I know is something's going wrong in your house right now.
Yeah, they're just having fun actually down there. I don't know. I don't know what this is. This is breakfast time. This is breakfast time. So yeah, I'll say this: Restream is not as good at Zoom as that.
Oh, but by doing like the noise
cancellation.
cancellation.
Zoom does noise like.
Yeah.
I think
Team
almost
Zoom does a pretty good job with that.
Yeah, like 90% of the time, people are like, "Oh, I'm sorry, if you probably hear in the background," and like whether you hear my kids, you hear the vacuum cleaner, you hear there's construction going on in my house, or there's that guy backing up, or they're doing road work, whatever it is, and you're like, "No, I don't hear any of that." Of course, the flip side of that is when my daughters were doing music stuff, and during the pandemic, they couldn't actually go in for auditions for some of the things they were doing. They do it over Zoom, and boy, you have to click around a lot to have Zoom stop trying to block what it thinks is background music.
Oh, interesting.
Like there's certain settings you have to turn on in Zoom. You're like, they just basically made it a button after a while so instead of having to go like, don't do noise suppression, don't do this, don't do that. There's like this button. It's like, I forget what they call it. It's almost like professional musician. You just click that and it's like, okay, we'll take off all the things that we do to try to make normal conversations drown out all the background sound and just be like, yes, you can play your instrument over Zoom and somebody can hear you. So that was interesting.
So hence the Last Christmas by Wham.
You're playing. I know you're playing the background. It's just Zoom is just Zoom is just muting it.
Zoom would just focus in on it, right?
Anyway, so your releases and your QA and your automation. Yeah. So you're working towards getting that all fully automated.
Yeah, so we're looking for the guy we hired is actually based out of Georgia. We interviewed him like last week or the week before. And yeah, he seems like a really, really good guy. I will say one thing about him, which maybe we'll talk more in the future once I learn a little more about him.
Does he listen to the show?
Maybe.
Is he going to hear this?
Who knows? Maybe, possibly. I don't know. Maybe in the future. But he works for FanDuel currently.
Oh, really? I worked with a guy who worked for FanDuel.
Oh, interesting. So this was the experience, and we were talking about this yesterday when we were meeting together. So it was interesting because we're talking about this new guy that's come in. We're really excited. He seems like a really great guy. He's gonna be a great fit to our team. Super smart. And that's what we look for, right? We want to look for people that are gonna be a good fit and that have good experience. That good. When he was in the interview, he talked about past projects that he worked on, how he worked through them, problems that he faced, and how he overcame them. Like it was, like I said, it was a solid interview. He seems like a solid guy. But the one thing in the interview we were trying not to talk about as much was his experience as a FanDuel, because we're like, because all of them, me and another person were like, we're so fascinated by what type of projects he worked on, especially from a data perspective.
Mm-hmm.
How much data, and he talked about a little bit about it. It was interesting. He talked a little bit about how the compliance that they have to kind of follow, because it's basically like a banking institution.
It has to be, right? You have to have an audit for everything. I'm guessing.
So there's a lot of compliance that they have to follow. A lot of regulations. Yeah, so it's basically like working for a financial institution. So it was interesting kind of hearing him talk about that and talk about. So I'm assuming when he gets in here, maybe we can kind of, especially once he leaves FanDuel, which I'm assuming he's in the transition now.
Okay,
that we'll be able to ask him a little bit more to kind of find out more about his experience working there. So that was kind of an interesting thing. Yeah,
I think it was FanDuel. It was when I was doing DevRel for SMS telecommunication stuff like that. I think it was somebody that was on the team who came from FanDuel. Was FanDuel not offshore, but like the U.S. was a secondary market for them, right? I asked this because like this person was over in Europe.
I'm assuming it has to be, but like I said, I didn't. You have what the DraftKings, you have the FanDuels.
I mean they've made it into the U.S. now, but it took a while.
Two competing things, betting sports apps. Yeah. So I don't know the backstory, but that would make sense because it took so long for online betting to become more regulated and
in the U.S.
in the U.S. by the government. So
interesting. So you talk about automation. Brought something to mind for me. Do you know what BHAT is?
I do not.
Okay, so do you know what Gherkin is from a behavior driven development testing concept? It's been a while. Yeah, that's fine. But Cucumber, I think, is in the Ruby world. Runs Gherkin. Gherkin's the syntax where you use human line. You still do a given when then, which is
anytime that we can drop a Ruby reference on the show.
Come on! Come on! Yeah.
Do
people still use Ruby?
Brings back some sweet memories of my Ruby on Rails days.
Yeah. Does it now?
And then I remember the gem hell that I was in, and I never want to go back to that.
I have that as an example in my talk on Yak-free Docker, and like just showing some of the simple things you can do with Docker. And the one is because like you find that utility, it's like some command line utility. You're like, this does exactly what I want it to do. I need this. And then it's like, well, how do I install it? And you're expecting to download it or something like that. Maybe there's an apt package for it. And they're like, oh, you do gem install. And I'm like, no, I don't. No, I do not. I don't know. I never do that. That is there's only sadness down this path. So when I see that, the first thing I do is spin up a Ruby container, run gem install in that, and then make it an image and be like, all right, good. You're on your own. You're not messing with my stuff. Yep. Anyway. So Cucumber on Ruby. I'm sure there's other ones. I'm familiar with like BHAT is what processes Gherkin in PHP. So Gherkin just being that given when then language, which is like the arrange, act, assert.
It's like a Behance. That's the one we use.
Oh yes, I think so. Yeah. That sounds right.
That's when we have a framework built around that. That one of our previous QE. It was actually a contractor that we used.
Gotcha. From so do you use it?
No, because we had a QE engineer. Why did I say QE engineer? I don't know what that's.
I don't know. Isn't it a QA engineer?
QA engineer, yes. Okay. What's QE? I don't know. Quality engineer. I don't know.
Maybe it's quality engineering, but
stupid. I know. I'm just being incorrect. But you can tell my experience with being a QE engineer because I can't even reference the title correctly because I never was one.
Mark's like, quality is not my business.
I just fly by the seat of my pants.
I'm more of a quantity guy.
I put that commit message in, just let it fly, let it go, push it out.
Didn't work. We'll do a hot fix. Come on, it'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine. We don't need testers. We have customers anyway.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. I mean that's the truth though. Like somebody is testing your code. Just sometimes it's your customers.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Anyway, what were we talking about?
Talking about you have some Behance? Is that what it is?
Previous guy who worked, he was a really smart guy, and actually we were hoping to get him back as for like a short term kind of contract, but he's on like another project now. But he worked with a consulting agency, and so we had him for about maybe actually he was there before when I started, and he might have been there for almost a year. And he wrote a pretty good framework that actually is interesting. That as a learning tool, especially somebody needs to learn our platform, they could basically go through this Behance project, which you say is very, very written in plain language. Like I said, if else, the search kind of just written.
Yeah, given this, when that, then this.
Yeah. So it's meant to be written in a very non-programming syntax. I don't know the right way to say this, but
the idea is it's written in business language, right? Yes, like in what the business's expectations are.
So if somebody wants to learn the steps of our pipelines or the kind of the components of our platform, if you just go through this test framework and just read it, running it,
you should understand.
You can learn a lot. So we like it for that aspect. And he wrote that in Behance, and so that was kind of interesting. And we do have that running right now. It's just running from a local perspective. We are working on getting that more automated, so it's kind of built within our pipelines. But it was interesting too. We did talk about that in the interview, because the guy we're hiring for this QE role, that he has a lot of experience with multiple frameworks. So one of the questions I asked him was, when would you choose to use a kind of an established testing framework compared to, let's say, a homegrown custom framework that a team would build out? And he actually gave a real good simple answer for it. Well, based on the requirements. Right. Taking a look at the requirements of the project and the kind of expectations, timelines, what are you really trying to test? And then you could see if it's especially if something needs to get turned around fast, and if a testing framework would be a good use to fulfill the testing requirements for that project, then then maybe use a framework. But if not, then maybe if it's just something small or something very, very custom that kind of has to fit within your scope for your project, then maybe just do something custom using more of a vanilla testing framework like PyUnit or your Jest or JUnit or something like that. But it was interesting that we talked about the fact, like, our current, we use a little bit of PyUnit, we use a little bit of some kind of a lot of vanilla kind of homegrown unit tests, and we have those kind of within our workflows. But then we also have this framework based off Behance, and I could see his eyes turn on that. And it was interesting because his perspective is that he actually doesn't like those style of frameworks and he likes more hard syntax driven, more programmer specific unit tests and how they're written. So, and we said, well, okay, that's interesting. And so maybe if you want to come in here and refactor that, maybe kind of to use that as a starting point, and then maybe do something that extends that or even replace it. Yeah, we're open to that. So, but it's kind of interesting hearing his kind of experience with those style of frameworks.
Yeah,
because his one of his reasons is it doesn't really scale well. So if you really are going to deal with more of a complex system, which I would say our system is kind of complex, but I think from a scaling perspective, so maybe coming from FanDuel, that those types of frameworks don't scale well in more distributor complex and just more elaborate platforms.
Well, I guess I can see that because, well, I guess I don't know. That'd be an interesting conversation to have, because what you end up having to do is, if you have nice human language, then there's always code behind it, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's something that says, oh, when you say given I'm logged in as Bob, like there's some method that goes logged in as Bob. Okay, Bob is the variable. Now I do whatever I need to do in a testing concept to set it up as if Bob is logged in. And the more complexity you have, the more that code moves outside of your actual code and into some other thing that says, well, this is how I actually do that test, which may be good, maybe bad. If you can have it inside your code base for that application, great. But if you are doing those orchestration type tests, then no, it becomes its own code base, its own testing code base. But the thing that came to mind when you were talking about automation was the fact that BHAT, which is the PHP implementation of executing a Gherkin, a Gherkin scenario, I think would be the term, talks about how it is an automation framework. It doesn't actually, well, I mean, it says generally used for testing, but like it leads with we're talking about business language driven automation, where when you say, you can use human language to say, do this, do this, do this, and expect this. But really what you're saying is, I'm using human language to say, do this and do this and do this. The fact that this one says expect that because it says then, that doesn't matter, because most of the time, like that given when then is for us. It's the things that are past that get analyzed and passed to a method that says, well, if you said then I should be logged in, well, then there's just code that says, oh, look, it should be logged in, and then assert that they were logged in. So it presents itself as a way to allow people to change scripted automation using human language, and then execute that change using whatever code behind the scenes has to run to achieve whatever the human language is expressing. I thought that was interesting, because that's kind of like pushing towards this. Yeah, our primary use right now is automated testing, but you could do anything.
What you're talking about is more about orchestration.
Yeah, it's just saying
human readable orchestration.
Right.
So, yeah.
We are a system that allows you to create human expression, sentence structure and all that then gets parsed and then fed to some other script, some like syntax level script that says, oh, I know what to do when you say that, which then if the humans can rearrange it and add more, and it has, whatever variable substitution makes sense in your context, now you have something you could give to somebody and say, okay, here's the it's domain specific language, just kind of less syntactical than we normally think of domain specific language, right? You can say, oh yeah, you could automate this whole thing. Like if you wanted to say home, you could probably, actually that'd probably be a really good use case to use something like a Gherkin processor to do home automation. Because you could say, when this happens, then this should happen, and it could just parse that.
Isn't what we have ChatGPT for?
To do home automation? To write the code. To write the code.
Like human readable like instructions to have it
generate
the code that we could then interface with automatically. Isn't that the dream?
I don't know if that's the dream. Some people might be the nightmare, but yeah.
Well, that's one thing we haven't talked about in a while. ChatGPT.
Have we not?
I was going to ask you, because that was one thing that
no.
kind of came up from one of my coworkers, because he was thinking about because we did talk briefly a while ago about incorporating ChatGPT's enterprise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which I have no experience with. That's why I was curious. Does your company use like the enterprise kind of level of ChatGPT, and what is that like?
We have that. We whatever the corporate licensing type thing is. The things that I find interesting about that is I believe that it is. I have not done a lot of digging on this, so take that for what it's worth. What I feel like is the entire content of the show.
It is.
We have not. This was not well thought out.
Issues that we know nothing about.
Yes,
and we do not know how to solve
all the time,
and we just talk about solving them in ways that will probably not work.
Right. I mean, but for a second there, I wasn't sure, were you describing our show or our jobs?
Because it's our lives, Tim.
Because it feels, it feels very similar. So my understanding is I think you can set all this up if you have a pro subscription, like a single pro subscription to ChatGPT. But I think the business one comes out of the box with all the settings, like don't learn from my queries, don't, like all the stuff that you can kind of turn on in the settings manually if you have to. It comes out of the box with them configured, and I don't think your individual seats can turn them off, because that's one of the main concerns companies have is, I'm feeding you data. Are you going to then use this data to improve the model, which on one hand is good for everybody, but also if then that my company has an employee named Bob, that's probably bad. I don't want you to know that. And I'm not saying that you should actually put non-anonymized data into ChatGPT, even if you have a business account. But I believe the business, or I don't even know what they call them, corporate, whatever those, the accounts that are geared towards businesses, I believe they have those things turned off by default, and you can't turn them on. So it makes it very hard. It should make you more comfortable with what it is, that it's not gleaning information. At the end of the day, whatever, you're believing what they say. Are they training the models on it? Like they're telling you.
Always a little bit iffy about this stuff.
Well, right.
What I'd used, and I resubscribed to ChatGPT, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago.
So
I think I'm still subscribed. I haven't paid attention to it a little bit. I don't use it a huge amount, but I do use it especially for like, it is still a better way to search for documentation. So if you want to if you're trying to learn a framework, or try to like AWS, like documentation is kind of, it's so much to parse and stuff like that. So it actually, to use it as a starting point for documentation searches, I find it's super useful, because usually it can solve your question right away. But I still find the code that it generates, it doesn't work the first try. So especially if I'm going to try to say, okay, write me this method that does this, it'll add it'll using the specific, libraries or frameworks, because that's really what we're trying to do, is trying to learn this library framework. So I want to get some example code. Then let's say if I then copy paste that, use as a test to kind of, so I have to do 2 or 3 tries to tell them, oh no, this parameter is not valid. Oh, it's because it's from a previous version of the library. And so I get, that huge, many times. And it's just, and I find it's still annoying. So, but I just use it for just general documentation searches where I find it is really, really useful. But I'm still very weary about plugging in code, because it's still like, unfortunately, a lot of the code that I see is that it's very domain specific with, acronyms, account numbers, terms like that are sometimes hard coded into it. Every company has this issue. It's like depending upon how certain code bases were written, but this one is very, very domain specific. So it's like once you copy paste that into a third party system, you don't know what's going to happen with that. So
So that's some of what's on the pro account. The other thing that's on the pro account, at least that I've noticed, is different from standard. Not pro accounts, whatever you call the corporate account. That's not standard for, say, pro accounts, individual accounts that you're paying for. Is you can share your chats with a link. Like, you can do that anywhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, so you can be like, oh, this is a cool chat, grab it, paste it. Someone can take it. They may be able to resume it. It may depend if they have a free account. I don't know if they can resume it with the same GPT model that you have.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about the corporate account is I don't think you can share it with people outside of your organization. Like, it just doesn't allow that.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that, other than that, I don't know if there's more collaboratory things. But I use it. So I have a personal pro account that I use for my personal stuff, and then I use the corporate account for whenever I'm doing work related stuff. Just because I was already paying for it. But it was like, but we should, it was that goal. Like, we should understand more what this looks like in a corporate environment. Do we want to roll this out to a lot of people? Do we want to encourage the team to start using this? Because we do, like, if you're trying to solve problems and they make sense, like, and it's not like what you're saying, not sensitive things that you cannot paste in there. But if you're trying to figure something out, use the tools. They're not going to give you perfect answers, but let me tell you, integrating with Jira. I think we may have mentioned this on another show. Like, Jira's docs.
Everybody loves Jira.
Yeah. Jira's docs are not necessarily that easy. Yeah. And I was surprised by, honestly, how good it was. Now, I wasn't integrating with a library, so it didn't get confused and think it was using, like you say, some different version of the library, or get confused about that. I was just saying, hey, in PHP using Guzzle, I'm going to make these requests. And it was good at figuring them out, like what the requests should be, what the parameters, what the API parameters are, which was surprisingly difficult to understand from Jira's own docs. So I found that really useful.
Well, we also need ChatGPT to help us with our kids' homework. That's what I find I use too. That's the other reason why I had the my own kind of pro account for that. Because, like, interesting when you have like your daughter's in a math class that you took. Oh boy. So she's like an honors geometry this year, and I read the questions. I was like, yeah, I kind of remember a little bit about that. And then that's one thing too, is I can just kind of plug in the question, get kind of it actually does a really good job for like math help. It'll give you good examples to kind of walk it through, and then you can kind of have a little dialogue, maybe give like alternate kind of questions. And so, yeah, I think for math, as a math tutor, to help refresh things that you forgot, 40 years ago, then it's definitely super useful.
My kids use my pro account. Which, I don't know, maybe ChatGPT's mad at me for that, not buying each one of them a $20 a month license. Sorry, ChatGPT, not happening. But I'm sure that ChatGPT, if I asked it to describe what it thinks or who it thinks I am, it would be very confused, because I'm just looking at our chat history. Yesterday's chat history: unicorn narwhal gift ideas.
Narwhal.
So that's one of my kids trying to come up with gifts for another one of my kids who likes unicorns and narwhals. And then we have another chat on rotations per second versus hertz, which is the right one to use. That's my oldest, who is a teaching aide for physics in a chemistry class, trying to judge whether or not she should accept an answer that was in rotations per second instead of hertz. And then we have a tiger, lion, jaguar coloring, which I think is a kid wanting a coloring page. Someplace down here is stuff that I actually did, but it takes a while. Oh, you know what? I found it really useful recently. So this is some backstory. Our version of homeschooling is a little bit different than mine. There's a lot more technology now than there was when I was going to school, in terms of just like what's out there for you to do classes with. Some of my kids take real live classes from, for chemistry, physics, things like that. With the teacher, they meet once a week on Zoom. Others, we do pre-recorded videos for their English, things like that, which works out great. Like the content's great in that it's not someone who thinks they need a lecture for an hour. It's like sometimes it's a really short video and then go do your work. What else do you need from me? So I think it's just teach what needs to be taught, and don't think you have to fill like an hour because that's a normal class period or something like that. Just teach it and then have them do the work. And that can be async. That doesn't have to be a live class because that's a little different than science, I think. But anyway, so we leverage those different things. We have a vocab and spelling, where the system we're using online, you can provide your own lists, and their lists were okay. But once we got to the higher grades, they weren't that great. Well, we had another book that had a bunch of words. It was a different curriculum style, but it's like, oh, those word lists could be useful for this, but they're printed, right? So just take pictures of them all. Since there's plenty of OCR tooling built into ChatGPT, right? Take pictures of them all and say, hey, here's a page. It has, like, most of the pages have 3 columns of lists, and like list, group A, group B, group C, or I think it was list 1. Maybe it was numeric. Yeah, it was numeric.
And for the non-developer listener of the show, maybe that one person.
Yeah.
Every year. OCR stands for optical character recognition.
Yes, there you go. So it can.
That was one of the first things I worked on. As a programmer. Remember I told you I worked as a database. I worked for a tax administrator. Yeah. And one of the biggest things I had. Well, I did 2 things. I wrote reports for that was based for
lots of SQLing, right?
Yeah, formatting data coming out of our database for business reports, or I wrote programs that ingested forms.
There you go.
So basically, I had to work with OCR programs that said, okay, this character or this set of characters at this position on this form should be read and stored in this field. I wrote a lot of that. Gotta love the OCR.
Form processing. Well, yeah, and like what you used to have to do to say this position, right? Now I'm just taking a picture of a page that has a 3-column layout and just saying, extract me the lists of spelling words. And it just does. And then I'm like, give them to me as CSV. And it just does. It's like, here's a CSV file. So those are some of the recent things in my ChatGPT history. But yeah, lots of kids doing different things for school and stuff like that. They use it to help grade papers.
So we started off this episode on Christmas, because this is the last Friday before Christmas. And I think you started to allude to Christmas lists.
I did allude to Christmas lists.
So do you have a Christmas list, or are you asking what my Christmas list is?
Well, you're the one who usually likes to talk about this stuff, but I was going to say
I do. Well, I usually like to talk about it, but this is the one year that I have like no list, and I've no time to think about buying gifts. I did buy it for my daughters. I got them pretty much taken care of.
Okay, I'm trying to remember this from the many years of Christmas that we've done.
Yeah.
You've gone, if I'm not mistaken, you've gone back and forth from like do your shopping as late as possible to like, no, we got it done early. Yep. Is that
so
okay?
I'm either polar opposites. Like I'm either let's get done before Thanksgiving in November, maybe even October, or I'll wait till like Christmas Eve. So
is this a Christmas Eve year?
No, I would say it's probably about like the 80-20 rule. I think I bought probably about 80% of, I'm not getting that much. I'm not getting a crazy amount of stuff, but like I got like the most important gifts. I think I already have those. that I ordered online. I got them in. Actually, I had to double check them to make sure everything's okay with them. But yeah, so
that's always scary, right? When you order it and you're like, I think it's gonna
so
work.
I was gonna get some small odds and ends, kind of just some small things to also get them. But it's not gonna spend a huge amount of time with this weekend before Christmas. But yeah, I might do a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah,
just me. So I might just do a little bit of Christmas Eve shopping for the fun of it. Why not? Got nothing.
There you go. Why not? Yeah. Especially, hey, do you go to Chris Kindlemart there?
Oh my gosh!
So I went there years ago with my parents.
Oh my gosh!
And my brother and his wife.
Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, known as the Christmas City.
Yeah, and we did the glass blowing there. That was the thing for Christmas. My wife and I took my brother, his wife, and my parents out to do glass blowing.
Yeah. I would say,
and we walked through it again. We walked through it a little bit too. But
don't get me wrong, it is pretty cool. Bethlehem does a really
great job. Like it's different when it's next door to you.
That's what I'm saying. I thought, okay, so there's I know living in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. There's a lot of people know Bethlehem as the Christmas city. It's where our Savior was born, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Nope. But it is how many? Okay, we got to just for a sec. How many plots of Hallmark movies like take place in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania? Because it's
maybe I don't know. That's
I think there's more than
ChatGPT that. But anyway, so it's known as a Christmas city, and they do a lot of stuff for Christmas, and because Bethlehem's a very old city, and they like I said, they like to call themselves the Christmas city. But I'm sure actually how many cities around the United States call themselves a Christmas city too? I'm wondering.
I don't know.
Maybe Bethlehem is like the oldest Christmas city because it is.
Well, I can see that. Yeah,
we do have the oldest bookstore, the Moravian bookstore.
I was gonna say, and due to like the Moravian books, the Moravian Star and stuff like that, you definitely have a tie-in for feeling Christmassy for sure.
So growing up, and I mostly grew up around Bethlehem, Allentown area, and but spent a lot of time in Bethlehem growing up, and I worked at the Hotel Bethlehem as a bellhop. That's one of my favorite jobs.
Oh yeah.
And one of the favorite experiences was working as a bellhop at the Hotel Bethlehem during Music Fest, which Music Fest is a once a year music festival, which that basically takes over the downtown Bethlehem for like music performances. Like just not, it's not like a music festival where it's just like one big music fest. Like you have like I don't know. I do go to them, those big that the kids go to, right? It's not like that.
Right.
So basically, it's around the whole city. They'd have different bands or different musicians playing like for basically almost like 10 days. So it's a crazy, crazy busy time. And then everybody just flies in from all over the country for this festival. So traffic was always an issue with that. And I never liked living in Bethlehem around Music Fest. Now I'm comparing that to Chris Kindlemart at Christmas, which Chris Kindlemart is basically 2 to 3 blocks away from where I live. And at nighttime, when everything's lit up and everybody's going to Chris Kindlemart at night, it is crazy around here. Traffic is absurd. And I'm just like, I can't wait till Christmas is over because of Chris Kindlemart. But if you walk, I did walk down there with some friends. And like I said, it is pretty cool. So if you are down there, if you can find a parking space or be able to walk to it, they do actually do a pretty good job. There's a lot of like indoor kind of under tent kind of areas that you can see, and a lot of kind of different expositions they have going there. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah. But I can see the traffic being like, really? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not a huge fan of that right now. So I can't wait till Christmas is over just because of dealing with that. I want a little more peace and quiet around where I live.
I didn't realize I was talking to the Grinch today.
I know.
Anyway.
So because I live in the Christmas city, I turn into the Grinch, right?
Yeah. So, okay. Apparently at ChatGPT, there are only 2 cities in the U.S. known as the Christmas city. So Bethlehem, nicknamed the Christmas city since 1937. Of course, this is coming from ChatGPT, so this could be completely wrong,
or completely
right. Like this, that's that's right. But as the disclaimer on the bottom of every ChatGPT conversation, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. So if knowing that it was nicknamed the Christmas city in 1937 is important to you, you should double check that. So the city features numerous holiday events, including Chris Kindlemart. There you go. Yep. The other, any guesses on what the other Christmas city is?
I have no idea.
North Pole, Alaska.
Oh, okay.
The city embraces the Christmas spirit year round.
That's where Santa comes from, the North Pole, Alaska. And just
Santa Claus Lane.
Jesus comes from the Christmas city in Bethlehem.
Yeah, that's also not true. Both cities attract visitors during the holiday season. And I guess not as many movies as I thought. I think this is probably because it was done in 2023. Some Hallmark movies set Miracle in Bethlehem. And whenever I see that, I'm like, I know Bethlehem. I doubt whatever you're about to say about Bethlehem is accurate. But anyway, so it seems like the right place to put it. I'm guessing. Oh yeah, yep. So here's the plot of this story. Single woman adopts a baby girl just before Christmas. Due to inclement weather, she becomes stranded in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, where she finds unexpected shelter. So, yeah, seems about right for a Hallmark movie.
Well,
let's be honest.
One thing I will be doing at the show is definitely turning on Last Christmas by Wham. One thing I will definitely not be doing at the show is watching a Hallmark Christmas movie.
No, you don't put on the Hallmark Christmas movies. No. I feel like Netflix is trying to move into that genre as well.
Yeah, if you go on Netflix and they pretty much have they're trying to take over that.
And they're trying the live streaming thing too, aren't they?
Just trying to lock down all people sharing passwords, which I get notified because my kids are watching Netflix from 20 different places. My mom too. But I'll be paying so much for Netflix eventually once they cut me out for sharing my password.
Yeah, did we talk about the fight?
The Netflix fight?
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't think we did the live
Tyson,
streaming.
Yeah, the Tyson fight. Yeah. I didn't. I watched it. I was actually at a bar, watched a little bit of it, and then I left, and then I watched it after the fact. 'Cause it's on Netflix. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna watch this later after the fact.
Were they able to live stream it? Because the live streaming was really rough. A lot of people couldn't see it. And it just, I found it fascinating because you think if anybody knows how to stream something, it's Netflix. Mm-hmm. Because based on some of the critiques you saw on social media and things like that, I don't think anybody had a problem streaming non-live content on Netflix. It was just they couldn't keep up with the live stream, which was I found from a technical standpoint pretty interesting because that is a different thing. Mm-hmm. It's a different thing.
Netflix has been slowly inching away. There's a cooking show that's Michael Chan something, I can't remember his first name, but there's a cooking show. It's actually just pretty interesting. He actually does a live cooking show once a week.
Really? I didn't know that.
He has celebrities on that he sits in front of his
and it's live
the kitchen and he's cooking, talking with them back and having a chat back and forth. Yeah, it's all live. So
I guess you can obviously probably watch it after the fact too if you want to see because if you're going to make the content.
But the thing is, it's all live, and so that was kind of the first
this show. Wow, look at that.
The many viewers that watch us live.
Yeah, hello Netflix. I mean, if you want a good live Friday show, this is it. This is it. That's what I'm saying.
But they seemed like they were experimenting with the live kind of broadcasting or live, not broadcasting the word, but the live streaming of certain shows. But yeah, then they do the event, which I didn't watch the whole fight. I just watched the undercard fights,
which is probably the best thing to watch, to be honest, because the fight was terrible.
Yeah, we watched it. I was I was thinking back, man, I'm glad I actually didn't watch the whole thing. That was disappointing because it was the first couple of rounds were kind of interesting. And then I don't know. People are saying that Tyson kind of threw it, just kind of stopped fighting. But,
I don't even,
or he got tired. But
who knows? It just was not what everybody wanted it to be.
It was interesting the first two rounds, and then after that, it's kind of just petered out. I was like,
yep. So. But no, I was interested. It's maybe someone should have turned off the Chaos Monkey that night.
Monkey, yeah.
maybe somebody shouldn't be randomly turning off servers when you're trying to live stream to whatever.
That would be ballsy. If somebody at Netflix just said, "Okay, let's just
they have
it on the Chaos Monkey."
They have the Chaos Monkey running, don't they? I thought that's always running. I thought it was running all the time.
So running all the time.
I thought it was just a cultural thing where we are just going to randomly turn off servers, and you better be programming, so that's okay.
I wish I knew somebody worked at Netflix. That's one person I don't know.
Really? Okay. So we'll reach out to our listeners. I
want to know if Chaos
listeners.
Which once again we qualified what OCR is.
Right.
Chaos Monkey
no, we need to talk about
this program that's what shuts down.
Just shuts off servers.
Also, it doesn't. Okay, I think they can also do it in different layers too. I heard they can shut down. Yes, they can shut down individual servers. They can shut down individual accounts or because it's all based on AWS. They can shut down entire regions too. And just do it
regions would be ridiculous.
I think
regions would be.
I remember reading that they could if they wanted to. I don't know if they had that running all the time.
I only know that the Chaos Monkey shuts off just instances,
so they can shift traffic to a different region if that.
Yeah. I don't know that I would want to test that all the time.
Yeah, it'd be expensive. That'd be expensive test.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but you know what I want for Christmas, Mark?
What's that? A
Oh,
cat?
it's on my list.
You want a cat?
No,
Want a cat?
actually,
You want a cat? It's like meowing right now, trying
I
to
hear
get
it.
attention.
I hear it.
Yeah.
My wife wanted a cat. My wife wanted a cat for Christmas, so we have a cat downstairs. So yeah, no, I've got one. Got one.
All right.
So
check that off the list.
no, and it's a good cat. It seems to like us just fine, which is the weird thing about cats, right? Like you adopt them, do they adopt you? I'm not
That's
sure.
true.
But,
Yeah,
like,
I
I definitely get the feel that they have a different understanding of the relationship than we do. That seems for sure. But no, you know what I'd like? I would like all the episodes of the Dev Friday show online.
Do we put in a Jared ticket for this? I think we should.
Do I need to?
I need to track some story points. With
do I need to put a ticket in? Because let's see, if we get the recording today,
I need to know what my burn down rate's going to prove.
So if we get this recording today, I can probably get this turned around. Maybe we can have all of our pre-Christmas episodes up before Christmas, because I think what would be a better thing to do
That'd be a great
on
present
Christmas Day than to binge listen to the Dev Friday show?
There's nothing better than that.
Mark,
Nothing better.
Yeah, I don't think there is. But anyway,
in my lonely nights, I sometimes binge our own show too.
do you really?
Actually, I told you. What did I?
Actually, you listen to the last episode that's up there, which is, I think, like handheld infographic or something.
Yeah,
like that.
I listened to that one. I was like, I messaged you a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, like, this is really good.
Show. Like, wow, that was actually a really coherent show. We should do that again.
Well, I don't know that we have. we talked about homeschooling that show. I think. I'm telling you what, like some of the recently some of the chapter definitions are like off the rails. For when the what do we call it? I'm trying to think what it's called. The transcription service. I have create chapters, and some of the more recent ones, I was like, I don't know. I don't think that was something that we talked about. Even these ones, I mean, Tim Gunn, keep in touch with AWS consultants. No, that's not, that's the guy from like some TV show, right? Mm-hmm. What do you WordPress? Yeah, this is not bad. This is pretty good. Before starting a startup, you need a domain name. Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, any show that we rail against WordPress is a good show.
That is okay. Okay. You're definitely picking up on that from the from the overall community, right? Like, I don't even. That's just a mess right now.
WordPress, absolutely, it is.
Like that whole.
Is it still going on? I haven't paid attention to it. Has it leaked over to other PHP areas?
I don't think so. I mean, other than just like everybody looking on with just.
Last time I heard, the WP Engine won pretty much all their claims in court, and pretty much is making like WordPress pay for it or something. I don't know. Like WordPress is taking a hit in the courts because of everything. So yeah. I
haven't dug that deep. What the thing that again. I'm not even reading the headlines. This is just people. I'm just seeing people requote other people's tweets or something like that. That's about the level of interest I have for this
factual
nonsense. But but like I think WordPress forked some of WP Engine's plugins, and I don't know if they also threw WP Engine's plugins off the store. So they basically just took their work.
Yep.
Which, I mean, nothing's going to make your relationship with the community better than that. I can't imagine.
After we had that show, we discussed that. My thought was kind of similar. It was like, I think they probably never wanted to do this, but it would have been interesting if WP Engine just would have forked WordPress and just had their own free version of WordPress. Call it WP Engine, right?
WP Engine Press.
Free version. So they have WPEngine.org, right? That would be the free version that they would support, and it would actually have been interesting to see which one the fight that would happen between two groups.
That would be.
All right, I would have actually downloaded WPEngine.org and I would have tried it myself and see if it's better than WordPress.org.
There you go.
Yeah.
We've got 1 minute left. If you had to buy someone who is a technology enthusiast a gift, what would you buy them this Christmas season, Mark?
I need a USB hub.
Mark's a firm believer. What would work for him would work for somebody else. So
Everybody needs a USB hub.
everybody needs a USB, like a powered USB hub. Like what are your USB hub needs, Mark?
Okay, because I have a wireless keyboard, wireless mouse, and I've learned that if those plugs are connected to other devices close together, there's interference. The only way to fix it is I need a USB hub that goes away from all the other devices, and then I have to have clear frequency signals between my keyboard and my mouse. It's simple things, Tim. It's a simple thing.
All right, so if you're looking for something to buy the technology enthusiast in your life, get them a USB hub with a really long cable.
I need like a $15 one from Best Buy or a $5 one from Amazon.
All right. That was good. All right. That's all I got. I'm ending the stream.
It's true. Actually, I do need one. So yeah.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thank you.